Hey there, lovelies. Welcome to Tea Time with Ty. It's me, daughter of the Most High. Brace yourself, because this tea might just transform your life. Hey there, lovelies. Welcome to the Reading Chair, and welcome to another episode of Tea Time with Ty. And it's me, Ty, aka God's daughter, because I am God's daughter. And today, guys, I'm going to be reading another segment from my book, Spilling My Tea. And it's just a little quick session about, me losing my virginity and how that all came about. Real quick, real simple, but I wanted to shine specifically on this topic because I feel like this is a very, very, very under discussed topic in today's society, but it is very useful for the young women of today. So without further ado, honey, let's get started. Ty sit at the bottom stair of her mom's apartment with her boyfriend, having what seems to become a usual debate. "You're scared," he said. "No, I ain't." Determined to prove herself, she said, "Let's go to your house right now." As she and her boyfriend began walking to the house, she began shaking in her boots, but was willing to do everything she could to cover up her fear. As they walked into his room, Ty looked around and noticed the mess, but thought, "What the hell? Let's get this over with." He gently took off her clothes as he asked, "Are you sure?" and slowly entered her body. It was a huge mistake and a total waste of time. One of the first of my many bad decisions. It was much less pleasurable than I'd heard. Needless to say, the young man and I broke up not long after that event. After him, I messed around with a few other people, but never took anyone seriously. I don't think I really had a boy crazy phase, but I will say that once I lost my virginity, it was easier to give it up. I was a type that kept a boyfriend, but never kept the same one because I did not believe in second chances. At least, not at that time. Okay. Now, as I stated previously, this was going to be a really short read today, but I feel like it was very important. And actually, I was going to go with another passage from my book, but as I scrolled through my book to get to that passage, I just so happened to stop here. And I said, you know what, Ty, this needs to be shared today when you lost your virginity. And the reason why I selected this passage amongst all is because my heart really and truly goes out to the young women of today's society. The young men as well, but especially the young women, because there's not always, I would say about 85 to 90% of the time, not anyone there to converse with regarding these feelings and these thoughts and these emotions that we are experiencing leading up to us losing our virginity. And with that being said, that makes the pressures all the more influential in our life to say, you know what, let me go ahead and adhere. I know that when I was 16 years old, at this time I had just turned 16. I would say I was about 3 months from turning 16 years old. And it was looked at like a cool thing when you were no longer a virgin, when you were sexually active. But if you were not sexually active by this age, then you were looked at as being scary, nerdy, weird, all of the things, okay? And so when I met this young man, I actually had told him that I had already lost my virginity. So he was under the assumption that I was not a virgin. And I told him this because I didn't want to seem scared. But it really didn't work, because after I had declined his advance so many times, he began to see it anyway. So I should have just told the truth from the beginning. But nevertheless, I allowed that pressure of, what he would think of me to ultimately make the decision for me. And after that, immediately after that, I regretted it. Now, growing up, I grew up in a church. And I would say maybe once or twice I remember hearing the phrase, you shouldn't have sex until you get married. I might be exaggerating, maybe about 5 times. But what I will say is the voices that were telling me that it was okay to do were way louder than the voices that told me not to do it. And not only that, the voices that told me that it was okay, that it was not okay, that I should wait until I got married, there was no explanation along with that phrase. And I think that is one of the main issues in today's society, or just as a whole. There is really not a lot of conversation because parents are afraid to speak with their children regarding why you shouldn't do it, because they feel like the topic of sex is so finicky. Oh, I don't want to talk about sex. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to make it weird. But honey, guess what? We need to make it weird. We need to talk about this, because if we don't talk about this, they're going to hear about it out there in the world, and the way that they hear about it out there is going to be the complete opposite of what really needs to happen. So let's just talk about this for a minute, guys. How were you when you lost your virginity? And what was the reason behind it? Were you in a position where, oh, my hormones are just raging and I want to experience this. This is something that I know is going to be amazing. Were you, oh, I absolutely love this person. This is the person that I believe that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. So I'm ready to take that step. Or were you just doing it out of, strictly out of pure pressure? Did you wait until you were married, until you lost your virginity? Those are all questions that I really do want the answer to. I want you to comment, and I want you to really express that, because when you place those comments, people are going to read that, and that's going to help so many people. Yeah. So I know that whenever, leading up to that time, there's thoughts that goes through our minds. All of those thoughts. Is this person important? At least for women, since I am a member of the female species, I know that for women, those are some of the most important thoughts that crosses our mind. Do I love this person? Is it worth it? Am I just scared? Do I just want to get it over with? Do I just want to experience this? We actually think about that event before it occurs. So those are all, I think, great questions that we should all ask ourselves, because once we as adults ask ourselves those questions, then we'll be able to have a better conversation with our children. And even if you don't have children, you never know who you may be able to help, just by digging deep down into your past and into your thought processes to see how your thoughts caused you to make the decisions that you made. So losing your virginity is not something that should be taken lightly. It is something that has to be heavily considered before moving forward. And if you are doing it the biblical way, it needs to be with your husband or your wife, if you're a man. And the event of having sex is not just a sensational moment that you enjoy with the person that you're in love with. It is an interaction. It's a transaction. And for women, there is something that is being released into your body, and it's not just physical. So when you indulge in that activity, you begin to experience the things that individual are experiencing. So if that person is depressed, if that person is struggling with mental ailments, if that person is angry, if that person is bitter, if that person, whatever it is that that person may be dealing with in that moment, you may start experiencing it. And you may not even understand why. It may just seem like confusion in your mind. That's because you're battling all of these different emotions and you don't know where they're coming from. And it'll come suddenly. And as it relates to the physical, whatever that person, may be dealing with physically. And we all know, what that is, a sexually transmitted disease, the possibility of things like that, possibility of, having a child at an early age or having a child outside of marriage. And that is another thing that is super important, because I don't think a lot of people really understands the gravity of who you have a child with really does matter, because you're not just going to have to deal with this person for 18 years. You're going to have to deal with this person for the duration of your life, because now you are connected with that person. So it is something that needs to be taken into consideration. And so this is something that needs to be discussed, not just in church when a pastor brings it up, not just in sexual education class, but it has to be discussed from a parent to a child before society begins to nag at that child and to get in that child's ear. And eventually, once it enters into the portal, then it's going to get to the heart, and it's going to be made, and it's going to manifest. So you want that to manifest in a positive manner, where, okay, I am waiting for my spouse. I am waiting for the person that God has for me, and we're waiting until marriage. And that way, that can be a blessed union. So, yeah. Let's support our young men and young women. Not make them think that, we're judging them, not make them think that we are just these strict, parents that doesn't want them to have fun, but really support them. Have that conversation with them and allow them to get that understanding as to why it is important to wait, and why it is important to really think that through, and why everything that they hear in society is inaccurate as it relates to, it being okay to have casual sex and to lose your virginity before you get married. And I think that in doing that is going to trickle down to the next generation and to the next generation. And then before we know it, we're going to start seeing whole families again, not broken homes. We're going to start seeing children that are being raised in two-parent households, like it was from the beginning, like it was from God's original design. So, if you have made it this far, I first want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope that, this helps someone. And I want you to like this video. I want you to subscribe. And I want you to comment down below. And please hit that notifications bell so that you will not miss another video. But until next time, I hope that you guys have an amazing day. I hope that you enjoy your Christmas holiday, or just enjoy the holidays in general. But that's it. Okay, bye.